Hello, everyone. My name is Suzanne Hume. I am the Educational Director and founder of CleanEarthForKids.org, a nonprofit. We work to protect clean air, clean water, and non-toxic lands through education and collaboration. Tonight, we have some youth board members, fantastic youth board members, that have given so much time and effort to all that we do, and they're really accomplished. And so we are presenting them with scholarships from Clean Earth for Kids. And while the scholarships may only be $250, the value that these people have brought to Clean Earth for Kids and to the community is immeasurable. So I would like to first introduce Judith, and Judith will be asking some questions of our scholarship recipients. And I would like to introduce Leanna Cortez. So Leanna Cortez leads Team 1, Climate Action Plans, Renewable Energy, and Sustainability. Leanna will be probably one of our first, or if not our first, female doctor presidents. I have no doubt. So we're really excited to hear all that she has to say. Leanna, thank you so much, and you absolutely deserve a scholarship from Clean Earth for Kids. So Leanna, would you like to say hi real quick, and then Judith has some questions for you.
Okay, yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Leanna. As Suzanne mentioned, I'm a youth board member and lead for Team 1. And I just want to say thank you, Suzanne and John, and for everything that Clean Earth for Kids does for me and how we get to collaborate on such amazing things. And I just can't wait to keep working with you guys as I go on to college.
Thank you so much. Judith, do you have some questions for Leanna?
Yes. Leanna, first of all, thank you so much for all the hard work you've done for Clean Earth for Kids. And I was and still am impressed when I heard that you led a climate action sit-in in Vista City Hall. So Leanna, can you please tell us what inspires you, what your goals are for Clean Earth for Kids, and also your future goals?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Judith. And I also just want to thank you for everything you also do for Clean Earth for Kids. As far as what inspires me, I have to say my fellow youth inspires me every day. It's amazing. It's amazing to get to work with such collaborative and innovative and inspiring youths and also adults every single day, and with Clean Earth for Kids. I know that a lot of work has to be done, but I am very confident in our generation's ability to get that work done and to make change happen. As far as my goals for Clean Earth for Kids, I am really interested in further educating the community on how to become a part of the change, as well as fostering more environmental justice aspects within our teams, as well as contribute to climate action plans throughout the state and city and so forth. As far as my goals are, I'm very interested in public health. I will be pursuing a Bachelor's of Science in Public Health at UCSD, and I hope to tie in my passions for science, health, and policy in a career as a medical epidemiologist, as well as still remain active in public policy and perhaps politics, as Suzanne mentioned earlier. And I just want to thank you guys again for the scholarship and the opportunity to work with you guys every single day.
Oh my gosh. We are so very, very lucky to be working with you. And so congratulations on this scholarship. We're so absolutely proud of you, and you have such a bright future. So thank you so much. Yes, thank you. So we would like to introduce Kevin Doe, and Kevin is going to be a nurse, which is amazing. And he has such patience, and we learned this. One of our favorite stories, or my favorite memory, is of Kevin teaching Hannah to use chopsticks. So his patience is just astounding. He will be an outstanding nurse and contributor to community health, and public health. So Kevin, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself? And Judith's got some questions for you.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I really like to do tennis. I'm into a lot of things. I started doing or becoming part of Cleaners for Kids, not knowing what would happen, and I found that I kind of liked working with Cleaners for Kids, and so I stuck with it. And here I am today.
Thank you.
So yes, Kevin, thank you all for the hard work you've done with your poems too. So can you please tell us what inspires you and what your goals are for Clean Earth for Kids and what your future goals are?
I'm inspired by all my friends at school who pushed for radical action, especially when it's about climate change and the environment. Uh, I'm also inspired by the people at Cleaner for Kids. All of you really have done so much, and it made me feel like I should do more. Um, I've written poetry to express the idea that we need to change our lifestyle to preserve this planet we live on for the future generations, or now really, because, it's our planet. Why shouldn't we take care of it? My future goals for Cleaner for Kids is to take bigger actions. While poetry is a powerful form of expression, I believe that I should or I need to take it a little further and maybe do something which requires a little more confidence, like speaking. I haven't, don't have a lot of confidence, but I'd really like to develop that. And through Cleaner for Kids, I can help the environment and I can also develop, you know, some things which I'm really scared of doing. I plan on becoming a nurse, more specifically a nurse practitioner. I'm going to study nursing at SDSU for my bachelor's. I don't know where I'll get my master's. I'll figure that along the way. So I can, oh, excuse me, there's something in my eye. So I can potentially save or help as many lives as possible in a hands-on way. There's always a need for nurses, and I've always wanted to help people. My mom told me when I was really young that the more you help others, the more likely they'll help you back. And I try to live on that. And, that's why I really want to be a nurse. But there's also more to that story. It's a little long. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. And I do want to say that when you read your poem, Synthetic Nightmare, at the city council, the response by our city council member was to hug you when it was over. This was before COVID-19, because she was so incredibly impressed and moved about the kinds of things that you were writing about and your strength and how bold you were. So I just want to say, we see the confidence within you, and we're excited to hear all of the great things that you will be sharing with us with your poetry and your stories and all of that. So thank you so much. Judith, did you want to add anything? You're muted, Judith. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just want to thank you again because your poem has really made an impact on a lot of people, and it's gonna make a difference because you're using your voice. Like, I'm using my voice as my art, so we're both working together. Yeah. Okay. So back to Suzanne.
That makes me so happy. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So yes, congratulations, Kevin. You absolutely deserve a scholarship from Clean Earth for Kids. Your work is very important and you're so valued. You bring kindness, you bring friendship, you bring, you make us all laugh, and you make us think deeply with your poems and the kinds of questions that you ask. So thank you so much. So congratulations. So I would also like to say congratulations to Darren Marlowe. Darren leads Team 5, and she's on our youth board. So she's working to eliminate toxic synthetic pesticides and chemicals, and she'll talk with you about that. So Judith, do you have some questions for Darren?
Oh, yes. First, Darren, thank you for your work. I especially appreciated it when you made the video of no synthetic turf. You spoke at city council meetings against pesticides, and all of the important research you have done for all our panel discussions so far. Your hard work is making such a huge impact in Clean Earth for Kids and like the whole world. So Darren, can you please tell us what inspires you, what your goals are for Clean Earth for Kids, and what your future goals are?
Thank you so much, Judith. What inspires me really is passionate people. Like if they have something to say and they really care about it, I'm just drawn to that. And people at Clean Earth for Kids are some of the most passionate people I know, Suzanne and John, and all of the people here today and all of the other members of our youth board, and also all of our adult board members and how they give us continuous support. It's very inspiring to me that they not only are doing their own work, but they take the time to listen to people like us. In terms of goals for Clean Earth for Kids, like Suzanne said, the ideal goal is to get rid of all toxic pesticides in the county of San Diego and beyond, expanding to the state and the nation and the world, just because, you know, that's affecting public health in our environment. Other things I'd like to do are keep editing videos, maybe conduct some research of my own or do some citizen science projects, and also just support and uplift my peers. And for my future outside of Clean Earth for Kids, I'm going to UCLA with a pre-applied math major, and I don't really know what I want to do with my life yet, so I don't have any specific goals, but I just hope that whatever I do makes a difference and is fulfilling for me. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say absolutely. And we can't forget about your important role with the budget for the California Air Resources Board. So you're working on a major grant that's almost $100,000. So that's a lot of responsibility to be on the youth board and working on a grant of that size. So that's very impressive. And attending those meetings, all the meetings that you do with the county office, you know, San Diego and elsewhere, city council, you all have been just stars in a dark night. So thank you so much, leading the way, teaching people about toxic synthetic pesticides, dangerous chemicals, climate action, all kinds of things, how to protect nature and forests and all of the things that you do. It's just so incredibly impressive, and you absolutely deserve this scholarship. I just wish that it was a full ride. Anyway, all we can do is what we can do, but we'll just keep on plugging away on it. So we do have a donate page on cleanearthforkids.org. We welcome everyone to donate. 100% of the money goes to scholarships, if you designate it for that. If not, it will go towards our programs. And again, we're all volunteer. We don't take any of the money. So you can see here is our new donation page, and it will say who we are, or it does say who we are, our statement. And yeah, so we're really excited about that. So this was developed and designed by our intern at Cal State, Kirsten. And we're just so proud of her. She just graduated, like I said, from Cal State, and will be continuing on with a master's in public health, and will continue to be working with Clean Earth for Kids. So thank you so much. So absolutely. Judith, did you want to add anything?
Um, just, I guess, thank you for all you've done, because you have done such an important um, uh, tasks for Clean Earth for Kids with all your research, and you're such a hardworking person, like as all of the youth board members. But yeah, I like to thank you again for your hard work.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all the hard work you do. I know we didn't talk about it today, but you're doing a lot of important things as well. So I guess moving on to the next segment of this webinar, I have some good news for all of you. Yesterday, a federal court overturned the EPA's approval of a dangerous man-made synthetic pesticide called dicamba and all dicamba-based herbicides. They are made by the chemical giants Bayer, BASF, and Corteva Agrisciences. This ruling makes it illegal for farmers to continue to use the lethal pesticide dicamba that can also cause an array of other health issues besides death, including neurotoxicity, reproductive effects, kidney or liver damage, and negative effects on child development. The ruling by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit found that the EPA, quote, substantially understated the risks of the dicamba herbicides and failed entirely to acknowledge other risks. The EPA has made multiple errors in granting the conditional registrations, the court ruling states. So this is a really monumental step towards change and hopefully getting a lot of these other pesticides out of our nation. There have been 100 rollbacks under the Trump administration related to environmental legislation, and a lot of it has to do with the EPA and their research being stifled or restricted, and also the people in the EPA that have been elected by the Trump administration. The EPA has been underestimating the effects of numerous pesticides and toxins, including chlorpyrifos, asbestos, and lead. So this is helpful and sets the tone for keeping the EPA accountable and hopefully reversing some of these other rollbacks that have been harming our environment.
Darren, that is amazing news. So yeah, thank you so much for researching pesticides and informing all of us. So if you'd like to help us raise funds for our scholarship fund, please let us know. 100% of our donations go to our programs. CleanEarthForKids.org is all volunteers. No one takes a salary or any compensations. I would like to invite you to enter our K-12 contests and community service opportunities. You can learn how to by visiting our website, CleanEarthForKids.org. These opportunities are available to everyone all throughout the world. Students can get community service for taking a minimum of 2 pages of notes from tonight's panel discussions and submitting them to notes@cleanearthforkids.org. We also have programs for unpaid internships for academic credit or community service hours, and many programs including Cal State, UCSD, Notre Dame, etc.
Right. Thank you, Judith. So before we begin our panel discussion, we would like to say that we stand with the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as standing for justice on all the frontline issues during these times. So we are proud to serve on the NAACP's Environmental Justice Committee, where we are writing letters calling for social, environmental, and racial justice and police reform. These will be published soon, and if you want to join us or share your thoughts, please let us know. We would also like to recognize the work done by the Racial Justice Coalition of San Diego, NAACP, and all those fighting racism. Without social justice, we cannot have justice overall. Social justice is the foundation of a democracy and a free society. We stand with the peaceful protesters bringing awareness to injustice. Our calls to action include the first, the de-escalation of training of police. 2, citizens on democratically elected police review boards to oversee police suspension cases involving officer-involved shootings, and as well as a national database so dangerous police officers are not rehired in other states and do not compromise the safety of our people or the officers working hard. We also will be sharing links and resources to anti-racism works to become educated on not how you can fight for social justice, but how you can learn to be anti-racist as well.
Today, we have good news that has come decades too late. LA has outlawed police from restraining people with chokeholds or arm across their neck and throat that blocks off a person's air supply. Chokeholds are dangerous and often unnecessary since they can put a person's life at extreme risk. So today, thankfully, police departments come across San Diego, including police officers at San Diego Unified School District, Cal State University of California, have outlawed chokeholds for police. Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and countless others have lost their lives due to police brutality. Right now, people are protesting for the Black Lives Matter movement to fight against oppression they have faced through the actions of law enforcement. Enough is enough. No justice, no peace. Moving on to another disease besides racism, we are currently battling a global pandemic with more than 110,000 lives that have been lost in this country. African American communities and people of color have a higher death toll from COVID-19, a respiratory illness associated with air pollution caused by released greenhouse gases. The coronavirus mortality rate for Black Americans is 2.4 times higher than the rate for white people and 2.2 times higher than Asian and Latinos.
Thank you, Alice, for sharing those statistics. If Black lives truly matter, reduce air and water pollution in communities of color. Building infrastructure for renewable energy and regulations is also of need. In America in 2020, it is unacceptable that children live near soot or coal ash from nearby factories spewing out pollution. We need to make sure that all people have clean and safe water to drink and clean air to breathe. Yes, we must provide resources, public health for Black and communities of color and all of us. And we must have police reform. We also need renewable energy and infrastructure. These problems are all interconnected and we must address them all in unity. African Americans as well as other people of color are on the front lines of impact for all of these issues and we must address them as well.
To protect people from air pollution, please sign the petition on our website. We are grateful to Representative Al Marzucci for working on this and so many environmental issues. The petition is on right now, and this petition is to establish a protective distance between oil drilling sites and homes, home schools, child care centers, healthcare facilities, and other sensitive locations for California residents. Support AB 345, establish rules to protect public health and the environment from the impacts of oil and gas extraction. This is important because California is the largest oil producing state in the nation. Taken from the website, a passage states that over 5 million Californians live less than a mile from an active oil well, with low-income communities and communities of color facing disproportionate health and safety impacts. This petition allows us to take action by urging the California State Senate and California Geologic Energy Management Division, or CalGEM, to establish rules to protect public health and the environment from the impacts of oil and gas extraction. We must protect our environment. Our website, cleanearthforkids.org, has a list of the 100 rollbacks of environmental protection during the Trump administration. The purpose of the Columbia and Harvard trackers is to follow regulatory rollbacks of the Trump administration. Unfortunately, today, President Trump will sign an executive order that instructs agencies to waive or stop long-standing environmental laws needed to protect our air, water, and public lands. NEPA, or the National Environmental Policy Act, is a foundational environmental law. Its purpose, as stated by energy.gov, is to promote efforts which will prevent or eliminate damage to the environment and biosphere and stimulate the health and welfare of the people. Despite this, the Trump administration is directing the destruction of our public lands, which is leading to more pollution for our communities of color, Native Americans, and those living on the front lines of pollution. Trump is giving federal approval for new mines, highways, pipelines, and other projects. These projects will inflict further harm on our environment by increasing levels of greenhouse gases and putting more people at risk. Coal mines would encourage the utilization of fossil fuels, and pipelines are infamous for oil leaks that taint our natural environments. These pipelines also are unfavorable with the Native American populations because there's a possibility of oil leaks that will contaminate drinking water as well as damage sacred lands. The president makes an excuse regarding the current economic emergency, as he says. We question, why not build renewable energy infrastructure like so many other countries who are choosing clean energy? President Trump has continuously blocked renewable energy projects. Declaring an economic emergency allows the president to invoke a series of federal law where emergency circumstances make it necessary to take an action with significant environmental impact without observing normal requirements imposed by laws such as the Endangered Species Act and the National Environmental Policy Act. These vital laws for our environment protection require public input and voices on proposed projects and analyze in detail how federal decisions could harm the environment. 2 Indian tribes in Montana have sued in federal court in the Great Falls the Trump administration for authorizing the construction of portions of TC Energy Corp's Keystone XL pipeline near their reservation, saying authorities fail to consider the risk of the project's construction, exposing them to COVID-19 and a pipeline leak contaminating their drinking water. The Assiniboine and Sioux tribes of the Fort Peck Indian Reservation in northern Montana sued on Friday the U.S. Department of Interior, which is accused of granting TC Energy a right-of-way and a permit for the pipeline's crossing under the Missouri River in violation of the Mineral Leasing Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, and the government's trusted responsibility to the tribes. Let's protect water, air, and land, stop drilling, and build renewable energy infrastructure. Put people back to work in renewable energy jobs like solar, wind, water power, or battery storage.
Excellent. So important. Thank you so much for going into such depth about all of those important pieces. So yes, NEPA is a foundational environmental law, and it is being disassembled piece by piece, rule by rule, through the Trump administration rollbacks, of which 100 are on our website at cleanearthforkids.org, and the Harvard and Columbia rollback tracker are on there as well. So thank you so much for that just really important and detailed explanation. So Darren is going to talk to us about the title of tonight's panel discussion and give us some resources and talk about World Environment Day.
Okay, thank you. So the title of this week's panel discussion webinar is relating to endangered species and the Endangered Species Act and biodiversity as a whole. So tomorrow, June 5th, is World Environment Day. So when you love something like the earth, do your best to protect and nurture it in the ways that it is needed. This includes dedicating your time to learn about the state of our planet's health and taking action to prevent irreversible damage caused by the climate change. And one way you can learn about this is by going to the World Environment Day website. I cannot share my screen right now, but if you go there, you can click on view live updates, and there's going to be a timeline with a lot of webinars that you can attend. Some of them are not in English, but if you speak other languages, that could be helpful, but a lot of them are in English. And so they'll be labeled by the date at which it's going on, and a lot of them are also separated by time. If you're looking at the specific day, like if you want to do something today, then they'll be labeled with time zones. In 1974, the World Environment Day became a global celebration with the theme Only One Earth. This year's theme is biodiversity. The United Nations stated the year 2020 is a critical year for nations' commitments to preserving and restoring biodiversity. So you may be wondering, what is biodiversity specifically? Biodiversity could be defined as the variation of Earth species living on land or terrestrial, species living in water, and marine species that are living in our oceans. There are 3 types of biodiversity, the first being diversity within a species, or genetic diversity, and that's basically how much genetic variance there are between individuals. There's also diversity between species, known as species diversity, which is the variety of species in a specific habitat or region. And this is probably the one that you're most familiar with. This can be measured in two ways. One is richness, which is the physical number of species in a given area. And let me just share my presentation really quick with you guys. And evenness, which is the quality of the proportion of each species. So both of them combined can give you a more in-depth estimate at the biodiversity in a place. And the last one is habitats diversity, which is ecosystem variance. This includes living organisms and non-living components like the climate and chemicals. That's all part of the ecosystem. Every species is interconnected with neighboring species in the surrounding environment. This one's pretty hard to measure because ecosystems tend to blend into each other, but this one is arguably the most important. Biodiversity is necessary because it's vital to the survival of all life on Earth. Each species has a purpose, either as predator, prey, or both. And the way that works is plants use photosynthesis, and every organism above that on the food chain is a supplier and transmitter of energy. And that delicate balance between predator and prey populations relies on all parts of the ecosystem, from the smallest bacteria to the largest vertebrate. One very obvious example of this is keystone species, which exhibit disproportionate effects on the ecosystem. I think that was shown in Yellowstone when they removed all the wolves, and then a lot of their prey their populations started booming, and then that harmed their prey. So the ecosystem was completely imbalanced. Keystone species exhibit top-down control, and when keystone species disappear, there's trophic cascading. So like I was talking about, the trophic levels, the energy levels that each species on the food chain obtains. Our biodiversity is a cornerstone for the goods and services from the environment that allow human societies to thrive. There are a lot of ways that the environment is plentiful and abundant for us. There's material resources like food and water, wood, things like that. They also provide essential services, not only to regulate themselves, but also to help purify and clean things for us and keep everything balanced. Things like climate control, pollination, food mitigation, and cycling of nutrients. It also provides a cultural benefit because there's a lot of recreational opportunities, places you can learn a lot from being in the environment. It provides a sense of tranquility and peace to people, so it has a profound impact on our lives. Right now, biodiversity is threatened. There are a lot of statistics, but I think one of the most jarring for me was that an estimated 24 to 150, actually, I messed that up, species go extinct every single day. And so you may be familiar with the third mass extinction, which was like the dinosaurs when the meteorite came, and 95% of the species on Earth were lost. In fact, right now, of all species that have lived on Earth, over 99% of them are extinct. But at this rate of how many species are going extinct every day, it only take a few tens of thousands of years to wipe out the same number of species as the third mass extinction. So a lot of scientists believe that we're going into the sixth mass extinction right now, if we are not already in it. So one thing that the US has to ensure that biodiversity is protected to the best of our ability is the Endangered Species Act, which was enacted in 1973. If you're familiar with CITES, that is the US version of it. CITES protects international endangered species, but the US version is only endangered species in the United States. The three goals are to prevent extinction of species that are endangered in the United States. These species are defined by the Fish and Wildlife Service and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and those two government organizations work together to create an endangered species list. I think there's a little bit over 40 right now. This is one of them, the sea otter. The second goal is to rehabilitate and manage populations and protect critical habitats and identify critical habitats. The Endangered Species Act was weakened in September 2019 by the Trump administration as a part of these 100 rollbacks. Basically, what it's done is it's made it easier to remove a species from a list. Protections for species on the list that get to stay are reduced. And a quote from the New York Times, regulators would be allowed to conduct economic assessments, for instance, estimating a lost revenue from a prohibition on logging in a critical habitat when deciding whether a species warrants protection. So it allows them to prioritize our economy over the health and the numbers of the population. And that makes it really difficult to protect and consider organisms affected by climate change, because a lot of the time there's not a lot of instant gratification money-wise. It's hard for people to see the economic value in protecting our environment, because in the short term it's not going to help them, and it's really hard for them to see in the long term what the right choice is. So basically it will just prioritize corporations over our planet, which is the exact opposite of what this act should be doing.
Thank you, Darren, so much for sharing all that valuable information. I would just like to quickly share that there's a great film out there called Racing Extinction, which gives a really good condensed overview of what is going on and how we can fight for these endangered species and all species overall within a variety of ways. So I definitely recommend checking out that movie if you haven't done so already. I'm going to also quickly talk about as Darren mentioned, tomorrow will be the World Environment Day, which is hosted by United Nations. The United Nations also has a series of workshops, goals, and maps on their site that will allow us to get more educated on necessarily what they're fighting for and what they're trying to educate us on as well. So the United Nations has these things called SDGs, also known as Sustainable Development Goals. There are many of them, but I'm just going to briefly talk about 13, 14, and 15. So 13 is climate action, which climate action goes hand in hand with endangered species, particularly those that are threatened by climate change overall. So it's really important that we take climate action in order to preserve and harness our energy on combating those threats to those specific species. Number 14 is life below water. So again, it's focusing on protecting our aquatic organisms and species, which are vital to the ecosystem and are also threatened by climate change, as well as oceans acidification, the bleaching of coral reefs and so forth are really dangerous. As well as number 15, which talks about life on land. So it talks about our terrestrial organisms and how they are impacted. And all three of these kind of focus on biodiversity, which Darren had mentioned earlier. So it's really vital that we stay educated on this topic and make sure we do the best of our abilities to combat these rollbacks and so forth in our nation level. So I'm also going to talk about what else the United Nations are doing. So the United Nations has lots of communities working to solve these programs and are working together with other organizations. For example, the United Nations has an environmental program, as well as these things called COPs or COPs, which stand for Convention of the Parties, and they're hosted by different countries every year on different topics. So I'll briefly talk about COP13, which is the Convention of the Parties. They have a different one thing for each one. This one focuses on biological diversity, also known as biodiversity. It was last held in 2018 in Egypt, and it stresses the importance of maintaining biodiversity, as Darren will also mention in regards to Colombia and the Amazon later on, as biodiversity is vital and is threatened when species become endangered, which Judith will actually talk about now.
Okay. So right now there are 46 species now listed that are benefiting from the Endangered Species Act. Without the Endangered Species Act, the following species would have disappeared: the peregrine falcon, the humpback whale, the Tennessee purple coneflower, and the Florida manatee. Sadly, the Trump administration and the fossil fuel industry continue continues to try to narrow the scope of the law and stop our protections. As a result, animals are facing pesticides, pollution, and climate change. The endangered species rollback in the US means that scientists would be forced to take out climate change considerations when determining how to protect wildlife. A recent United Nations assessment states that human pressures are poised, controlled, to drive 1 million species into extinction, and that protecting land and biodiversity is critical to keep greenhouse gas emissions in check. We're losing 1 million species. What is causing these animals to become endangered? Well, one reason is the warming temperatures and climate change. Another is loss of habitat from massive industrialization. Another one is equipment like fishing gear, boats, cars, like I talked about last week about whales. Most of all, another reason is the undoing of protections done by the Trump administration. They have chosen a coal lobbyist to run the Environmental Protection Agency and an oil lobbyist to run the Department of the Interior.
Thank you for sharing that really vital information, Judith. Briefly, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite animals that is sadly endangered, and that is the polar bears. So polar bears were actually listed as endangered in May 2008. So that is like over 12 years ago. And the loss of ice because of climate change is the biggest threat to the survival of polar bears. Oil and gas drilling is also another significant threat, as a lot of oil and gas drilling is done near the Arctic and the Arctic Basin and all those things. So satellites, like the ones you see right now, actually show about 770,000 square miles of sea ice was lost from 1981 to 2010. So polar bears have lost an enormous amount of habitat, and they have also lost an area larger than Alaska and California combined, which is tremendous. Most polar bears live in the Arctic Circle. There are some populations south of the Arctic Circle in Hudson Bay, Canada. However, there are only about 23,000 polar bears left. And a study shows that their numbers have dropped by about 40% from 2001 to 2010. And that's not even including 2010 to 2020 right now. So polar bears spend over 50% of their time hunting for food. But because of the loss of sea ice, polar bears can't hunt like they used to. And many are losing their lives because they are so hungry and are looking for foods in camps and towns where they come into contact with people. And did you hear about the bad news about the massive oil spill in the polar bear habitat? Russia just declared a state of emergency because of their massive oil spill in the Arctic Circle, where the polar bears reside. As of yesterday, over 262 tons of diesel fuel has spilled and contaminated the soil and water in the Arctic. Drilling for fossil fuels and oil spill is poisoning the water and land for polar bears and is threatening their existence. We need renewable energy now, and we need to stop this drilling, because not only will it impact our environment, it's also impacting our ecosystems as well as these polar bears. So one thing you can do to help save polar bears is to reduce or stop using plastics as much as possible. Unfortunately, almost all plastics are made from fossil fuels. However, you can replace your plastic bag or plastic silverware with something else. Remember to use your reusable water bottles, and instead of using plastic containers, use other reusable containers. Please do all you can to stop pollution, drilling, and protect our endangered animals and public lands. And there's always more information on our website as well at cleanforkids.org.
Oh, wow. Hearing about those polar bears is really, really sad. But aren't grizzly bears also endangered?
Yes, thank you, Alice. Another bear that is endangered, like Alice just said, are the grizzly bears. So grizzly bears were listed as endangered in 1975 when there was less than 1,000 of them in the lower 48 states. Today, there are less than 1,800 grizzlies left in the lower states and only 31,000 in Alaska. Now, grizzly bears only have less than 2% of their original habitat.
Oh no, only 2%? Grizzly bears only have 2% of their original habitat. We know that humans are the greatest threat to grizzly bears, and we know that their habitat is destroyed by logging, mining, oil and gas drilling, and land development, and that trophy hunters hunt grizzly bears in their lives for a trophy.
Yes, trophy hunting is very common. We also know that, however, global warming is reducing the food supplies for bears, making them more likely to search campsites, trash cans, and dumps for food. And that brings the bears into contact with people and causes them to lose their lives or come into dangerous contact, which again will cause them to pass away. And on January 14th, 2020, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service started a 5-year status review of the grizzly bear. This administration wants to remove protections from grizzly bears. And on May 21st this year, the National Park Service announced that it is repealing bans on certain types of huntings of bears and other predators and large animals in the over 100 million acres of national preserves in Alaska. So this means hunters will be allowed to shoot bears and wolves and their cubs and pups while they are in their dens and lure them with food like sweets, like donuts. There's a petition on our website to stop the expansion of hunting in wildlife refuges. And if you have time, please review it and sign it. That would be amazing and can really help bring change and stop this horrific expansion. We also want to stop 2.3 million acres of public lands across 97 national wildlife refuges and 9 fish hatcheries to hunting and fishing. So we need to stop the expansion of hunting in wildlife refuges as they are refugees. So we don't want to allow wildlife refuges to do more hunting and fishing than already is what is being done. This affects over 2.3 million acres of public land across 97 national wildlife refuges and 9 fish hatcheries. So the mountain lions, migratory birds, bears, and so many more species depend on protection. So again, this petition is on our website. We need to tell Interior Secretary David Bernhardt to stop this plan immediately because this is so important. We are, like Darren said, in the Earth's 6th mass extinction. Do you know that one species vanishes nearly every hour, if not more? Opening national wildlife refuges to more hunting is exactly the kind of action that is fueling this wildlife extinction crisis and threatening of biodiversity overall. Animals must have land that is protected, preventing them from being hunted. These animals deserve to be safe from hunting and very places set aside to protect them, such as refugees. So again, please sign our petition and join us at cleanforkids.org to work on these important issues. And I will send, John will send the petition in the chat box because your signature matters and your voice matters. So please use it.
Here's another petition that our cleanearthforkids.org website has that you can review and sign. It states that we should stop nearly $40 million in reduction in California state parks general funds this year for California residents. To protect state parks from massive budget cuts, we need this money for our parks. In 2019, the Trump administration cut the budget for national parks by 14%. John will also send it to the chat box, or I can send it.
Hello, so I'm going to talk about the tallest North American bird that is 5 foot tall, the whooping crane. Its migration patterns are shifting because of temperature changes. With the warmer temperatures, that would mean whooping cranes would migrate north earlier and south later. What is the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and why does it matter? The Migratory Bird Treaty Act, or MBTA, makes it illegal for people to sell, hunt, capture, or kill any migratory bird unless the regulation allows them to. On May 3rd, just last month, according to the Harvard Law Tracker on our website, it states that this act is currently in the process of being rolled back. If we lose the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, hunters will be allowed to sell, hunt, capture, or kill migratory birds, in which the regulation will allow them to. Millions of acres of bird habitats are lost every year due to development, agriculture, and forestry practices. Habitat loss is believed to pose by far the greatest threat to birds, both directly and indirectly. Another endangered species listed under the Endangered Species Act is the Cook Inlet beluga whale. The most recent estimate of its population from 2018 is 269 whales. Due to overfishing, habitat changes, and the effects of climate change, the amount of food available is decreasing. The whales will have to dive deeper and longer to find food in a warmer Arctic. But I have good news. Just yesterday, mountain lions received an endangered species status in California, and there are 3 new baby mountain lion cubs, 2 males and a female in the Santa Monica Mountains. With each kitten given an ear tag, P54, the 3-year-old mountain lion mother, gave birth to two males, P82 and P83, and female P84. After Park Service biologists discovered P54's 3 cubs, they weighed and examined them, and they all appeared healthy. P63, the presumed father, was first captured around 15 months of age, along with his mother, P62, in February 2018, north of the 101 freeway in the Simi Hills. This is an urban area in the mountains. Down below, there are large highways, cars, and pollution. Mountain lions need a wide range to travel. A bridge will be built so the mountain lions can cross without getting hit on the highway. This will ensure genetic diversity or different genes in the gene pool. The bridge would connect the small population of mountain lions in the Santa Monica Mountains with the larger and more genetically diverse populations to the north. This is the 17th litter of mountain lions studied. Since 2002, the National Park Service has been studying mountain lions in and around the Santa Monica Mountains to determine how they survive in an increasingly fragmented area with highway environment. The Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area is the largest urban national park in the country. There are 1,500,000 acres of mountains and coastline in Ventura and Los Angeles counties, made up of local, state, federal parks, private lands, and communities. The Santa Monica Mountains, one of only 5 Mediterranean ecosystems in the world and preserves, and the rich biological diversity of more than 450 animal species and 26 distinct plant communities. Last week, our fantastic guest, Dana Kasich from Nature and Cultural International, shared what their organization is doing to help the biodiversity in Latin America. The theme of World Environment Day 2020 is Celebrate Biodiversity. With 1 million species facing extinction, there has never been a more important time to focus on biodiversity. You heard that right. 1 million species are facing extinction. What can we do? Our wildlife and ecosystems need our help. We must stop using pesticides that poison wildlife and humans and find better ways to protect our water and animals. Colombia has 10% of the planet's biodiversity. Darren, can you please tell us more about Colombia?
Yes, thank you, Judith. Colombia is part of the Amazon rainforest and has the most bird and orchid species diversity in the world. It is also the second most diverse place in the world for plants, butterflies, freshwater fish, and amphibians. Despite undergoing several changes, 53% of the mainland is covered with natural forests, which holds more than half of the terrestrial animals and plants in the world. The Amazon and Andean regions have the highest number of plant species in the world. The biodiversity and its functions and processes provide food, medicine, climate regulation, soil formation, water purification, and recreation, as I've stated before. So this is really a hotspot for biodiversity. The reason for this is mostly varied ecosystems. So there's like tropical forests like you've seen, but there's also desert areas and things like that. So a lot of different types of species that are adapted for different environments are all living in this concentrated space. In order to conserve this biodiversity, it's pretty expensive, as you would probably guess. And this is one example of how it's worth the money. So by 2050, conservation will cost about 67 to 89 million. But the lowest estimated benefit is 100 million per year, and that's already greater than the highest cost of 89 million that's predicted, and the benefit could be as high as 152 million. And this revenue would come in from ecotourism, and also the Colombians would benefit greatly from the continuation of access to fresh water. And as a whole, keeping biodiversity and protecting our planet is priceless. So even though we are focusing a lot on economics in our current administration, definitely there is no return on investment, at least in this case.
Yes, thank you so much, Darren. And thank you, Judith and Alice, for everything you shared today. It's really important to focus on biodiversity. As Darren just said, it is priceless, and it also has a lot of functions and value in terms of things like climate regulation and just keeping our ecosystems from collapsing, because they are vital to just seeing all the beautiful nature we get to experience every single day, and all the animals we get to hear about and learn about and really cherish during these years. I just want to end on a little note. We mentioned earlier about the current situation and how we are standing in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. And I know that times like these can be, pretty concerning, they're busy and evoke a lot of emotions. So I just wanted to leave everyone with this positive note of this little message I read today. So it goes like this. It says, "What if 2020 isn't canceled?" Which is a term to say like we just, are hating it. What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw, that it finally forces us to grow. A year that screams so loud, finally waking us from our ignorant slumber. A year we finally accept the need for change. Declare change, work for change, become the change. A year we finally band together instead of pushing each other further apart. 2020 isn't canceled, but rather the most important year of them all, and that is by Leslie Dwight. And I just wanted to remind everyone that even though these times are tough, they are allowing us to grow and to become more aware of these issues and to really focus all our energy on these issues, especially during times of this pandemic where our lives are a little slowed down, and we have the time and the energy and the resources to make collective change and really make not only our nation, but our world a better place, and really protect everything that we love and stand for. So thank you guys for attending or watching. You can also congratulations, Darren and Kevin, my fellow graduates. Really exciting stuff. We got through 12 years of school, on to the next few. And thank you to everyone at Cleans for Kids for all the amazing work you guys do. And thank you, Suzanne and John, for always being supportive and being like a second family to all of us. I'm sure I speak for many of the youth board members and just even adult board members, that it really feels like home when we work together on these issues. So just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you so much. That was just absolutely beautiful. So we'll go ahead and close for tonight. And Youth Board, if you can stay on for just a minute, so we'll stop the recording.